question that we got asked, I think, is really the important question, and the question that we are really going to hope to answer today, which is, what is the value? What are businesses really getting from green buildings and green building certification? And how can companies in different asset classes, different typologies, really find that business benefit that allows the company to be able to scale these initiatives? Because at the end of the day, we know it's good for the environment, but it also has to make some business sense. So these companies have all done it, and they're here to tell you a little bit about their story and how it's happened. Now, I'm going to start with a question to Dr. Gopi. The residential sector is one of the most difficult to green because there's a lack of consumer demand so far. We haven't seen as many individuals really seeking those green homes. So as a residential developer who has integrated green and has decided to take the journey in green building certification, can you give us some insights for Provident, what value Edge certification has brought to the company, why you decided to go on this journey, and share a little bit about your story?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Eleni, for that very kind introduction. And great question, because I think in the afternoon session, one is posed with a very difficult, proposition that how do you tackle green in terms of residential buildings? Because commercial buildings are, I think the end users are very clear, very mappable, and also that they are seeking ROIs, numbers to kind of evaluate how buildings perform, and green becomes a very important component in driving that discourse. In the residential components, as a developer, for instance, as Provident, what we do is we're in the process of assembling land, then constructing, and then kind of handing over the end user units. So after the end user unit handover is done, there is very little that we actually get to do. So our role is kind of diminishing. But if you take a step back and see, and especially we have a greater proposition that how do we deliver value to the end user. Here the customer is that he or she is putting in a lot of hard-earned money, and that seeks a durability question, which is like 30 to 40 years of minimum lifespan. And during that period, people are going to come back and say, now we have a 45 year legacy behind us, and if we have repeat customers coming back and asking that we want to buy a specific product, it is because that they see there are certain components which are uniquely placed within this project. And one of those important components is that how are our buildings delivering better performances. Now some of them are said, some of them are really intangible. And one of the good things is that people come back and say that your campuses are having great amount of green, visible green. That's the first part. The second part is that much of your infrastructure seems to be running at reasonably at optimal scale. That means to say the O&M expenses. If you live in a Provident house, that you don't have a mind-boggling monthly bill which is coming out. So there seems to be something working well with the optimal infrastructure. The third part would be also in terms of resources. Like borewells don't seem to dry, and borewell seems to have water all throughout the year. So that's like a promising proposition. In addition, of course, there are many other visible amenities, social infrastructure that's in support of this green statement. So all in all, when we kind of postulate all these different components together, then we see that this is actually leading us to this larger question of sustainability. And this sustainability, if it is structured in a proper format, comes back to this whole overall equation saying, how can we be green? How can we bring in green initiatives? And that is like our evolving force or evolving direction. The second component is constantly we are looking at bettering our designs, also from a perspective of end user comfort, and also in terms of how do we get to rally our stakeholders around central themes. Of course, one would be like the ROI and the endless drive to get cheaper and cheaper in terms of delivering the product. But the other side of the story is how do we get economical products but having a longer life cycle benefits. And I think that's where the green equation kind of comes in from an economical standpoint. And third, from a social point, I think the green equation is like the visible parts, the social infrastructure is something that is very compelling. And then a lot of people rally around this idea, saying that, residential complexes have these greens, and therefore we must kind of, this looks very interesting. So uh, this means to say that we are not actively saying that our products are green products, but then we use the green as the stepping stone to kind of drive message to the end user. So from a marketing angle, we are also seeing that a lot of people are evaluating the project without us saying that it's green, but it is sustainable and it has all the aspects of the green.
Thank you very much. So you're hiding the green credentials beneath physical green infrastructure. A little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much. If I can bring in Mr. Baljit, what would be the different opinion from the commercial real estate side? How do some of these comments align potentially with some commercial client requirements, or is the conversation completely different in terms of the value for commercial real estate?
Thanks, Eleni. I am Baljit Singh. Good afternoon, everyone. So Brookfield Properties is an institutional developer and REIT, which is a unique combination which demands a lot of transparency and compliances. And edge giving equal weightage to the energy, water, and material, and also emphasizes more on the embedded carbon. This is the uniqueness in this certification, where they're focusing more on the embedded carbon, because the building from design state, and also offering free design consultancy, a software, and which is very easy and user friendly to upload data and see that where do you stand in case of your ongoing greenfield buildings, or also helping in existing building for retrofitting, how to upgrade and all of that. So we have recently gone with edge certification for our one portfolio in South, and we found it very, very friendly, and it was very easy and very comprehensive though, and all the all those certifications are done with the backing of your documentation and all of that. So we found that and it is people know it now these days. Edge is very popular in the market. It has a global recognition. So our clients who are multinational, they prefer to be in a property which is certified by Edge. Also they have their own green attributes which will add to them also. If they are occupying my green building, they will also meet their targets of sustainability. So that is another point for achieving this. So I think that there's a value for occupiers, and also it helps in attracting good financing at competitive price, rental interest rate. So it has a, although in all those international financing agencies are recognizing Edge certification for giving them the preferences of the green bonds, etc., as you mentioned, Mr. Prasad. So you can raise green bonds, you can have green financing and all of that. So also it is been recognized by CDP, GRAS, and all of that. So I think there's a win-win for that. There's a lot of value in this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we've heard from the residential sector, it's about the value, the life, what's affecting the day-to-day user in terms of the experience. From the commercial side, we're hearing a little bit more about social sustainability, sustainability strategies, the financing. So quite a combination of values depending on the different sectors. Maybe I can bring in Priyanka to comment a little bit on the comment of value, and also talk a little bit about Tata Realty's strategy. So Tata Realty as a company has adopted green building certifications across a variety of them, and you have your own policies in place. So maybe you can share also some of the considerations you go through when you're deciding which benchmark to follow, what's important under different properties, and how you categorize them.
Sure. Thank you, Eleni, and good afternoon, good evening to everyone here. Eleni, to answer to your question on values, I think so we have to look at from a multiple stakeholder perspective. We are almost we are present across India with 24.5 million square feet area with 7.7 million in an operating ones. And these are all buildings which have multi-tenants. And a tenant's profile, if you see, 53% of them comes from IT, 26% comes from diverse financial services. And these are all multinational companies, to say. And they come with their own ESG commitment, which are taken at global level, these companies are signatory to global platforms. And that's what gets, that's what gets absorbed when their Indian entity also approaches us, and they want to fulfill their own sustainability goals and targets. And majorly, it is on renewable energy, it's on energy efficiency, which I think so with H kind of a certification or other green building certification, we are able to fulfill their requirements when we are in the negotiation and when we are in the conversion phase of the leasing of that asset. Also, I'll just give you another reference where the India is also growing in GCC, right? From 2022 till 2024, I think the first half of it, 53 million square feet has already been leased, and out of which, again, 30% has gone to IT, which again looks similar to the trends at which we are also leasing our assets. And out of 53 million square feet, I think so 75% of the tenants have preferred green certified assets. So this is very surprising, and this is also very motivating to developers like us who are trying to build our assets, zero carbon buildings assets, right? And from a strategy perspective, I would say at Tata Sons, at Tata Group level, we have a very specific project called as Project Alingan, and it gives direction to all the Tata companies on net zero, on driving net zero targets, achieving net zero by 2045, reducing that 45% of our emissions by 2030. And second pillar is focusing on circular economy. And third is on preserving biodiversity. And all of these three pillars are very much connected to climate change and climate risk that we have already identified, right? So going to values, yes, we see values when tenants come with their ESG, they want us to present the ESG strategy that we have, the certifications that we have. When it comes to multiple certifications of similar type, whether it is LEED, IGBC, or IFC-H, IFC-H is one of the simpler and a very easy to understand kind of a metrics that it gives in terms of energy, in terms of water saving, in terms of embodied emission saving. Whereas LEED and IGBC has been there in the market, and those are the certifications which are asked by either MNCs for LEED and Indian clients for IGBC. In fact, when a couple of our tenants are Tata Group companies, and those group companies ask for Indian certification because at Tata level, we want to promote Indian certification, so hence IGBC is. But that small percentage being largely, having a coverage of MNC tenants, the international globally recognized accreditations are advantageous to us. Another thing is, in terms of Tata Realty strategy, from Tata Group level, we have also developed our organization level strategy, and we have identified 5 pillars on responsible real estate, basis the discussions that we have with the stakeholders, with our occupiers, with our investors, with our supply chain partners, right? And 2 of the pillars are on resilient structures and replenished nature, whether the other 2 are on reap talent and respect lives, which are on more human and social aspect of it. And third is on the governance, the remaining 5th pillar is on the governance part. This is our strategy. We have taken very ambitious targets as well for certification. Like I told you, 96% of our area is certified with green building. We had taken a 2025 year's target of 100% certifying our area with green certificates, and we are working towards it. Most of our assets are EDGE certified, and that also EDGE Advanced certified. And of course, one of the assets, Ramanujan IT Park in Chennai, along with Taj Wellington, is a zero carbon certified asset, which is also trophy asset. So I hope this answers your question.
Absolutely.
And I've left anything, if I have to speak about it.
No, I mean, it's a really interesting sort of challenge that you've presented, and an opportunity in the sense that there's both an internal driver and that longer term bigger vision and strategy and feeding into that, in addition to the external driver, which is your customers, your clients, and trying to find kind of the balance between the two. I don't know if, Mr. Baljit, you also have a similar experience with Brookfield as an international organization with also larger targets and customers.
No, yeah, Ali, I think every developer wants to achieve the best of best certification these days. The competition is a lot. If you have to survive in the market, sustainability and, that is important for everyone. Otherwise, you aren't going to get any client in your space that's going to be vacated. So we also have a lot of certifications in our portfolio, like, of the highest level, whether it is international or a national certification. We have Green Building certification, Platinum certified, all the campuses. We also have BE 5-star rated, all the campuses. We have British Safety Council for the safety, safety, health and safety. We also have certified few of our projects as the net zero waste. We also have, taken a place where we are going to lead with the net zero water and going to be on, we have set our targets to be net zero carbon by 2040. So a lot of work has been done, and we also look for, every certification process teaches us a lot, and it adds value to the property. It's not that one certificate is good, another is not good, or so. Every process of auditing gives you the gaps finding. You really see that where do you stand at each certification, and that elevates your property level. And similarly, you can compare, the occupiers, they're also well trained these days. They're aware of each certification. They demand, they have their own, requirement at the global level. They also want to be net zero. So they are also competing in this world, They also have their, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 processes. And we also have a process wherein we are signing the green leases with the tenants. They are coming forward, looking to all those opportunities where they can add value to our own, 360-degree achievement of, expediting our net zero carbon journey. So we find it's exciting journey, and we find people are taking interest, coming voluntarily, and not bothering much about the expenses. People have taken an approach where they can, a lot of software have been used, a lot of technology has been used, wherein they can track. So I tell you, I think 10 to 15% of your energy or a water can be controlled and saved through monitoring. If you have a real monitoring system and you have got a integration with your automation and all of that, so that can easily save your 10 to 15% of your energy and water. Then comes your, controls. How do you control? You optimize everything. You put, automation system in the, operations technology you put there, centralize all monitoring system and all of that. Then comes your own higher capex items wherein you can put in chillers, chiller plant manager, optimizer, and all of that. So there are a lot of technologies if you explore. And ROI is not, very long. It is, maybe between, as it is mentioned in the edge presentation, maximum, 4 years for the highest one. Otherwise, it is very quick. So I think people are enjoying and looking forward to the technology, and they are aware that if you don't care for the, environment, they're going to have a tough time, as we are witnessing these days.
I just want to add, at the Provident company level, while we have the larger ESG bucket and where we have the 2050, targets and the roadmap set, what we are actually trying to do is that we are trying to see at building levels, at a development level, at a portfolio level, what we can be doing, best. And in this question of striving to do best, we are using EDGE certification not as a process of as a goal to get a certificate and showcase it, because our end users are really not at this moment paying a premium to this certificate. But what is of interest is that we could rally a certain discussion amongst our stakeholders. Let's say we have at a programmatic level, we can talk to our MEP consultants, we can talk to land the team, we can talk to our marketing team, we can talk to a whole lot of diverse set of internal stakeholders and external stakeholders as well, in terms of centering around a certain theme. Second, also from a perspective of what works best. But real estate development is price sensitive, and it looks always looking at better returns. But I think the kind of expanding this discussion at a management level as to which sites can do pretty well and which sites at some point can be better than another. I think decisions such as that are also being centered around this discussion. And third, the conversation with our with the end user. while the end user looks at great elements of vastu, great elements of ventilation, light, air, cost, and then location, and the whole dynamics of real estate, they're also beginning to look at is this a good building on the long run? Would this kind of stand its merit? And then would I be, is this in the discourse of sustainability? And there are a lot of people who are coming and asking these questions. And then when you look at numbers like the age certification numbers, I think they are like the good conversation starters. So it just doesn't boil down to the only standard set of questions, but also that big people are beginning to realize that there must be something more to the science of building, and that's being reflected in through these numbers. 30% reduction from business as usual. I think then it becomes an interesting conversation starter. How are you guys doing 30%? Let's talk about it. You have a greater water recirculation strategy. Which technology are we discussing? So unlike the boring thing about, oh, we are doing this and X, Y, Z, nobody understands what's happening.
Can I follow up on that? Because I think that's a really interesting question, and how we communicate value is just as important as what we're doing. So what was it like before you were using Edge, and have you found that there's increased attention from, you mentioned the boardroom, you mentioned executives, you mentioned users. I guess, can you walk us through what the change has been before you had Edge and now that you're looking at Edge?
I can be very brief on this. I think the discussion would be is like if you talk about the PHE consultant, you would say, so we can save about 1 crore liters a year, and nobody in the room knows what is 1 crore liters. So I think the dialogue becomes much more better if you're saying 15% reduction in water, and then in terms of tariff and then billing, we'll see about 5%, 7% reduction, which will roughly translate to a certain amount of rupees. So then the conversation becomes more focused. So, and it's not like the boring 1 crore liter which nobody understands in the room. That's just an example.
I wonder if either Priyanka or Mr. Baljeet, have you seen a similar difference in how this Edge certification can help you communicate to internally and externally stakeholders?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Like I said in the previous question, Edge gives you a simplified version of a matrix which can be conveyed very easily to your stakeholders, whether they are your board members, your CXOs, your employees. Because what I believe and what my management believes is sustainability begins with your employees, right? Those are the people who are working on ground or at the project level, and if they don't understand what we are doing or what we are trying to do with the help of consultants, right, then the whole agenda or the whole thing is lost. For this, we have also taken an initiative internally where last financial year, March month, we actually trained our project management team for Edge Expert exam. Almost 25 of the employees, mid to senior level, were trained on it. Out of that, I'm so happy to say that 10 are already Edge Expert. So essentially, India were the trainer for us. So these are the kind of initiatives that we are taking, and which are also a mean to communicate it to board members, to my group level people, right? So that they understand. This is from learning and development perspective, from the the asset performance perspective also. The project management team and the asset management team are speaking to each other now in a more language that is understandable to both of them. Right, so these are the things, or these are the impacts that I can see with cross-functional team understanding about Edge. Yeah.
So I think we've heard quite some interesting comments around the business value, because although each of these companies has stated the importance of bringing sustainability and that environmental benefit, we've also talked about staying competitive, attracting tenants, being able to fill the spaces that you're renting, bringing the value to your end customer and giving them something additional, ultimately, hopefully being able to sell potentially faster. All of these are very tangible business benefits. So when we're talking about green buildings, there has to be this mutual benefit being created for multiple stakeholders, the planet being one of them, but of course the end customer, whoever that is, coming into play. And I think everyone's mentioned both an internal and external driver to be able to meet these goals. Now, we've talked a little bit about financing. It's a question that has come up, and of course is a question that's very linked to IFC Edge, as it was created by a financial institution with the goal of enabling more financing into real estate. I wonder if some of our panelists can talk a little bit about how Edge certification has linked specifically to accessing finance or attracting finance, or a little bit part of the financial conversation. Perhaps I can start with you?
I think the path to raising finance, to discussing finance, supporting real estate, especially with the green theme, is still evolving. That's what we are kind of witnessing. But I think the goal is that it will take concrete shape, and there will be number of opportunities that will come by. That is our gut feel as of today. More concretely speaking, I think what is available today on the shelf is that a couple of financing organizations like the IFC itself puts a premium on certification, and therefore if our projects are in some way certified, they have a greater chances, or rather they will be eligible. One of the conditions for getting screened for financing is the rating system, and also the, I would say, certification system. Therefore, to begin with, I think this certification is the starting point, but I think this will, I think it's in the longer run, I think it will help us prepare to take on other opportunities which are in the offing.
So, Tata Realty has recently received almost more than 800 crores of financing from IFC for, again, our trophy asset, Ramanujan IT Park, which is a zero carbon certified asset. And one of the driver, or one of the key factor for this free financing was our EDGE certification, because the building's performance has been in such a manner that we could, when we went for a zero carbon certification, we could see there was a 42% energy savings. We had 94% of renewable energy procured, and almost 7% of carbon offsets procured, and the remaining 2% was from an on-site solar panels. So all of these initiatives, plus the water savings, more than 25%, embodied emission savings, and material savings of more than, again, 25%, these have all helped us to have smooth conversation with IFC team in refinancing our own asset, and it has also given us a motivation to again renew our zero carbon certification, which is due in this year. So we are looking forward to it. Of course, the interest rates, and there are certain advantages when you go with your certification to a financing agency, and you get a preferential treatment in terms of everything, right? So that's all about it. But again, I want to add another point here with one of my other investor, which is CPPIB, again in the Ramanujan, and there are other Gurgaon assets. So because we could achieve a zero carbon certification for Chennai asset, they look forward to having that kind of a certification for our other assets where they are investing. Unfortunately for Gurgaon, there are some limitations because of which we cannot right now move ahead with the zero carbon certification. But again, the emphasis is so much, and the involvement from the investor in our sustainability journey is so much that they have actually invested their time to understand our decarbonization journey for that particular asset, and we are working actually together on that.
And just to clarify, which came first, the financing or the certification and commitment to sustainability?
Certification, absolutely.
And Dr. Gopi, same here for you? Which
yes.
came first? Yes. So I think that is a very common myth, that you get financing and then you go green, but actually I think this is a really important point.
Of course, one more point that I want to add is a lot of, I want to congratulate and thank Sintali and Essential India for this, for their contribution into this.
Absolutely. So it's a journey, and it helps with accessing finance, but I think one of the common questions and myths that we see a lot of is that you need the financing to start certification. So that is something that it flips around a little bit. Now, Priyanka, you mentioned a few challenges in terms of some of the regulatory environment and some of the challenges in Gurgaon around renewable energy. I want to bring in Mr. Baljit about some other challenges. So Brookfield in particular is dealing with existing buildings and greening existing buildings, which can be sometimes more of a headache than new buildings. So maybe you can share some challenges that you've had to overcome in the road to decarbonizing the portfolio.
Yeah, thanks, Sel. It's very important question. Like as I lead, operations of existing buildings, and we acquire assets, wherein a lot of upgradation work has not been done. They have not upgraded. We had properties which are not even ISO certified. So to bring them up to the level of having net zero and all of that, huge amount of financing is required. Though we had been funding that, and we have been managing to upgrade all those properties to bring them to the highest performance level and all that, but still lot to be done to reach to net zero carbon, and for that you need a lot of funds. So for which we want that EDGE to be certified. All those entire portfolio has to be certified by EDGE. And we have also done SBTi assessment. We have also done assessment for achieving net zero, how much we have to pump in and from where the funds are going to be, because once buildings are constructed and they are operational, there are challenges to support them in terms of putting funds into them to upgrade and retrofit. Second challenge, the biggest challenge is what even you get the financing and funds, preferential rate or whatever, but execution, when it comes to execution, a lot of coordination it requires with the tenant. You can't make the building to be completely empty and then you upgrade and retrofit and ask tenant to come back again. So a lot of coordination, a lot of safety issues, and a lot of planning has to go into it, and it takes a lot of time asking tenants. But fortunately these days tenants are also very supportive and coming forward to upgrade, and they give really generous timelines. Okay, you can align to the lean period of the winters, or to upgrade, like for that matter, if you have to upgrade your AHUs to the smart AHUs, it takes a lot of time, and it is in their space, and you can't switch them off. So thankfully in North, when the winters are there, they are very cooperative to give those windows, weekends and holidays, etc., etc. So it is time consuming. Also it takes a lot of funds, and also you need to have vendors who are aligned to your vision, who can take care of everything without creating inconvenience to the tenant. So that's very important. That's the challenge in the operating buildings.
Absolutely. And please go ahead.
We have a very similar kind of a problem in the residential sector. I would say it's an institutional problem. Is the developer responsibility kind of ends on the handing over of the units. So we are not involved in the downstream. But much of the operational efficiencies that can be harnessed is not actually in the hands of the developer. So that is one limitation that we are seeing. And how we are kind of overcoming that, I think we are also taking a certain viewpoint in saying if we can play very active role in the post handover of the asset, especially in the critical infrastructure like the sewage treatment plant, and then also to look at the transformer, the substation, and a few key infrastructure. If we can kind of run it over a decade beyond the handover, I think then we would be also a part of the journey in terms of having this green community. So that's one thing that we're trying to tackle. But nevertheless, that is a challenge, because we can have a certificate, we can have some numbers, but once we are out of the scene, it's difficult to kind of control what's going on there.
Absolutely, and that's relevant for commercial and residential developers that hand over their assets. I'm conscious of time passing, and I want to be able to open up the floor, as I'm sure we have some questions. Is there any questions from the audience? Sahil, can I ask you to help?
Hi, I come from a little unique background. I'm mostly focusing on kitchens. So one of the areas which is a big power guzzler in terms of energy is the kitchen. And we have been a vendor with a lot of hotels in India, pan-India. And one of the things which we are really trying to get into the market is to make a hotel more energy efficient. Now the issue what happens is, if the first parameter of negotiation comes as a cost, even though we are adding actual value to the customer in terms of energy efficiency, because our product has been looking at a area where we can really improve the efficiency of the system, the final negotiation, it comes on the cost. So as a vendor, what would you like me to do to ensure this gets the ball rolling?
Shall I answer this question? So I had an opportunity, and I'm glad that I had opportunity to serve with Leela and work for Leela. So about 2 years, and Naresh is here. He can also chime in, and if he can add value to that. So I tell you, there are models these days. Vendors can pitch in for OPEX model, wherein if it doesn't work as a CAPEX, please work out and see that if you can offer OPEX model, wherein you can charge on per month or whatever energy consumption, and give them assured return that this is what I'm going to give you the value for this. So we have also had some challenges, but yeah, you can overcome with that. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the similar vein, I think if I can flip it to a bathroom, because a bathroom is the one which guzzles water, and if you're speaking about a valve system, which is like an automatic flush system, and then the idea, if you can draw a rationale in terms of every time you flush, that an X product versus a Y product, there is a saving of some X amount of water which is being saved, and that's the water that's going to the STP for processing and then recirculation. So if you did some little math, then you'll understand that there could be a little trade-off. Then it will sweeten the deal in terms of trying to go for your particular product.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Naresh Asawa, and I represent Leela Hotels. Since we are coming from the hotel industry, in the hospitality sector, everybody is committed for a net zero. We are also very ambitious for net zero plan. And when we look at the roadmap of a net zero, let's say 2045 and 2050, there are a lot of capex which is going to be required, a lot of resources which is required. My question is how can we collaborate? How can we work on one platform where we can make our CXOs understand that how can it become business strategy, number one, and second, how can we get the capex to execute net zero plan? Thank you.
So I think most of the Leela hotels are already net zero. I mean, they have 100% renewable. I think, if I remember rightly, Bangalore is one of them, and also Chennai. Yeah, there are challenges for but now we are certified, so maybe you'll get preferential rate of financing from IFC. And yeah, I hope you'll recommend that. Thank you.
I think from a global perspective, some of the things that we're seeing that other companies are doing are really trying to educate financial institutions in many cases around some of these challenges and trying to find pathways where I mentioned before that certification comes first and then the financing comes, and in many cases the financing is required to get the certification. And particularly for existing buildings, there's an enormous challenge in terms of the scale and the investment needed, which is significant for a company but still seems small from a banking side, and how to aggregate assets together to really get that scale. So I think, at least from what we're seeing at a global level, there's a lot of conversations happening, particularly for the retrofit, and how do we aggregate assets together, make it financially viable for financial institutions, but also for the companies that have the commitments. I haven't seen any great solutions yet, to be honest, but I think more conversations are required, and absolutely collaboration, because there is no easy answer. And as we look at a lot of existing portfolios around the world and think about all of the existing assets that aren't green today, there are definitely opportunities, but challenges also to be addressed. Thank you for your question, Naresh. I see one more question back there. We've got time for about 2 more questions. Oh, I see 3 in the audience.
Thank you. This question is for Baljit ji and Gopi Prasad ji, because it's for commercial and residential, both sectors. So what is your strategy for achieving net zero carbon status for existing buildings in residential and commercial sector? This is the first part. And also, how do you cater to health and well-being component, which is kind of directly missing or indirectly missing from Edge?
So shall I? Okay. For commercial sector, I can just throw some light on that. How are we, our strategy is to achieve net zero. See, our global, commitment is 2050 to achieve net zero. But in India, we have, accelerated that to 2040 or earlier. And we are very advanced and very aggressive. If you see our sustainability report, you'll find it. So it's there on the website, and also you'll see that now Edge certification and other health and well-being. If you talk, we have done a lot of upgradation and retrofitting in the AHUs. We also have one building which is platinum certified for health and well-being. There are other buildings which we are going for health and well-being along with. All the campuses are universally accessible. We are taking an approach 360 degree. It's not just a net zero carbon. It's on the every angle. And management has been very committed about it, and the board is every meeting in the board meeting, this is the agenda, like one of the agenda is out of that 2040, and where are we? So we have appointed big force for doing all the assessment for each asset, how where do we stand and how are we going to go. There are milestones, there is complete clear strategy. There's a ESG committee, there's a steering committee, and there's also action committee at down. And to the site level, we have people and trained team who are spokes, who leads those activities. See, without that, it's not possible. If it is just on the top and boardroom, it doesn't work. It has to be to the bottom. Every person, every employee has to be responsible. So there's a lot of training going on. And I tell you, we are facing a little challenge because we are training people, and people are quickly joining other companies with the promotion and all of that. That's the biggest challenge with us. But we are not stopping. We are doing a good work for at least the community, so that they get better employees. So we have studios where in live, a person can just visualize and learn live models of, working models of AHUs and entire, DGs, everything. They can just see in one studio itself. So, a lot of things have been done, and we really are open to learning also that best practices what are there. We have also implemented, very, very, innovative ideas to fast track this process. As I said, SBTI committed to SBTI and all of that. So that's the way we are going. That's our strategy. I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely. I'd probably read your report.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think it's very ambitious to really kind of say that we will be touching in 2050 the net zero. Let's be honest, because we are very far from the 2050 target. What we have just started is a certain effort in the right direction. And I think this effort also is kind of, is constrained both at an asset level and at the corporate level. Because at an asset level, sometimes, you have regulatory, things that don't allow you to become completely, off the grid or become net zero. For example, we had an opportunity where we could say we could raise more power than what we could do through an RE mechanism. But then we have certain regulatory obstacle which says that you can't cross 80%. So you got to depend on us on the grid, keep us alive and keep yourselves alive. So I think there are some self-defeating constraints which are there. I think this will be overcome in a few years. That's what we kind of guess. At a corporate level, I think also construction industry per se, if you're talking about what is happening in terms of residential segment, a lot of this is no-brainer. Everything has been kind of dissected, investigated, evaluated, and then everything is kind of measured. But I think two areas where certain breakthroughs could possibly happen is that material substitution and improvements, breakthrough in terms of reducing the carbon component in concrete. That's where that is something that's likely to happen. And then also greater mindset to accept recycled water. I think there is also a big challenge. There is a social problem which is looming. But how do we overcome recycling of water? How do we reduce completely? How can we go off the grid even for water? That's another question to kind of deal. I think these are the 3-4 important challenges. But what's life without a little bit of challenge and uncertainty? These ambiguities are actually spurring thought. So I think we're just hopeful that these breakthroughs will happen in the industry, and then we would kind of respond to it. And more honestly, I think it's important for us to begin the step of monitoring different components, not with an idea of becoming obsessed with large data and a whole lot of IoT systems. But I think it's very fundamental to know what's coming in, what's going out, how is the resource being utilized. I think that mapping is very, very important. I think that's to us, that is a very fundamental part, and that's one thing that we are doing.
Thank you for your insights. Thank you.
Can I answer your question? So I think the second part of your question was on health and safety and well-being, where you said that it's not covered in IFCH certification. Am I right? Yeah. So I guess we, Brookfield as well, we have also are on IWBI well certification, where we have achieved certifications on health, safety, and wellness. So all those aspects on social, where also in that a lot of environmental parameters are also considered, indoor air quality, water, which actually have helped. I mean, EDGE has helped us to achieve that certification. For us, it is, right? Also, at Tata Realty, what we are doing and what we are adopting right now is the recently floated index, Building Resilience Index. So if you see, the environmental, energy, climate, energy emissions, plus health and safety, it all connects to your risk management of your buildings, what kind of materials you have used, what kind of risk scenarios have you envisaged when you were designing the building, right? So right now for BRI, of course, a building is under construction and we are going for that assessment. But what we are doing for all our other assets is we are doing a concrete climate risk assessment so that we understand our risk, not only from a climate, energy, environment perspective, but also from biodiversity, from human perspective. So that is one thing which links everything. That's what I wanted to add.
I'm conscious we're running out of time, so I'm just going to ask each panelist to share in 2 sentences, please. What would be one piece of advice you would give to companies at an earlier point than you in a green building journey about starting to get into green buildings, starting to deploy green buildings? You all have incredible experience and are fairly advanced, so what would be your advice for newer organizations getting into it?
So it's important that the companies or the management to walk the talk. It's not anymore greenwashing now. So people understand what's your intentions and what are your commitment. You have to display, demonstrate, and show it that yes, you are really caring for the environment, and that's the world going to be. It's not going to be anymore that you just commit something and just go away. So I can say now it's this conclave was so important that I myself and my senior leadership here, like sustainability head, Mukund, Pia, Naresh, everybody's here from the Brookfield side to learn more about EDGE and also understand from other peers, what are they doing as Tata Realty and Mr. Prasad said. So it's all, two-way learning from such panels also, Thank you so much.
I would advise that they can start with EDGE because it's the easy tool where you input your parameters and you can clearly see. The presentation was clear enough to understand that you understand your energy, you understand how much renewable you take and how much emissions you save, right? So the companies can start with EDGE. It will give you a direction, it will give you structured metrics to understand your performance. Yeah.
I think incorporating any of the mechanisms or any of the formats early in the project, I think would be very beneficial.
I'm sure we could all listen to our panelists all day. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but hopefully you can catch them later on in the networking session. A big, big round of applause for our amazing panelists. Thank you all very much.